A person's name may shine for decades long before we truly know the soul residing deep within. In fame's world, the persona often appears curated, fixed, and tidy, yet life is seldom quite so orderly. We recall those who found the courage to live their truth after long, difficult years of silence. Others faced unfair public gossip or cruel, unfounded myths. These accounts prove that one's identity and legacy deserve grace and our most thoughtful reflection. This is more than a list of names. It is a tribute to dignity, honesty, and the hearts behind the spotlight. Before we begin now, please share your location and the local time with us in the comments. Caitlyn Jenner first became a legendary hero to Americans as the 1976 Montreal Olympics decathlon gold medalist. To our generation, that athlete represented all-American prowess, discipline, and the ultimate ideal of masculinity. We saw the famed world's greatest athlete on every Wheaties cereal box. We truly felt we knew that champion. But behind that iconic image was a hidden private struggle with gender identity that lasted for many long decades. In 2015, following a brave landmark television interview and that famous Vanity Fair cover, she finally stepped forward as Caitlyn. The public reaction was extraordinarily massive. Some felt deeply inspired. Others were confused, skeptical, or even upset. Regardless, she forced a vital national conversation about what it means to be transgender in America. It was a rare chance for us to hear someone speak honestly about their fear, shame, and the immense relief of finally being seen. While her specific politics and leadership remain a topic of debate today, her transition remains a defining cultural milestone. Her chapter teaches us that living authentically does not expire with age now. Sometimes the most significant chapter of a life begins late, proving that it is never too late to speak your truth and forever change the culture for generations yet to come. Elliot Page was a highly respected star long before he shared his true self with us. Many of us remember his Oscar-nominated role in Juno or his later work in The Umbrella Academy. He had reached the heights of Hollywood fame. His talent was evident and the public respect was quite immense. Yet Page has since shared the deep unease of living a life that felt like a performance. In winter of 2020, he bravely came out as transgender, choosing the pronouns he and they. His message was humble, heartfelt, and very candid about his anxiety. It moved many people because it felt like a man finally claiming his right to live as himself. A landmark moment followed on his hit show, The Umbrella Academy. His character transitioned into Victor Hargreaves. For many viewers, it was a profound example of a transition being met with quiet dignity rather than drama. While he received much love from colleagues and fans alike, he also faced the usual harsh criticism found on the web today. His story is vital because it teaches us that before and after isn't merely a change in looks. The real shift is the freedom to stop acting for others and start living for oneself. We see now that his path is not some modern fad. It is a human life. His truth is not a trend, it is a very real living life. As a viewer who has watched the television landscape evolve over the decades, I find the case of Chanel West Coast to be a startling example of how easily the truth can be eclipsed by digital fiction. Most of us recognize Chanel from her long tenure on MTV's Ridiculousness, where her signature laugh and vibrant personality made her a staple of modern cable TV. However, she earns a place on this list for a unique reason: she is not transgender. Her story is actually a cautionary tale about one of the internet's most persistent and bizarre identity hoaxes. For those of us who remember the classic 1990s sitcom Boy Meets World, the name Stuart Minkus brings back memories of the lovable, nerdy kid played by Lee Norris. In 2015, a Transformation Tuesday meme went viral claiming that Norris had undergone a sex change and re-emerged as Chanel West Coast. Despite being entirely baseless, the claim spread like wildfire across social media. Fact-checking sites like Snopes quickly debunked the story, noting that Chanel was born Chelsea. Chanel Dudley, and that Lee Norris was still very much himself, having recently reprised his role in Girl Meets World. In interviews with In Touch Weekly, Chanel expressed her frustration, calling the rumor a form of defamation. She noted how painful it was that young people looking for genuine representation were being misled by a prank. This chapter matters because it reminds us that in an era of viral misinformation, identity shouldn't be a guessing game for the board. It serves as a stark reminder to our generation that we must verify what we see online, as a person's dignity is far more important than a cruel internet joke. As someone who has followed sports for decades, I remember when the name Fallon Fox first hit the headlines in 2013. It was a moment that shook the very foundation of professional mixed martial arts. When Fox disclosed she was a transgender woman, she didn't just become a historic first. She became a lightning rod for a national debate that resonated far beyond the octagon. Watching the coverage on outlets like Sports Illustrated and ESPN at the time, I saw the country split in two. On one side, there was immense respect for her courage, particularly given her background as a veteran who served in the U.S. Navy, a detail that often gets overlooked but commands significant respect in our generation. On the other side, however, were serious concerns regarding competitive fairness and physical safety. High-profile figures and medical analysts sparked fierce discussions about biological advantages such as bone density and muscle mass, which many argued created an uneven playing field in the women's division. To me, the most striking part of her story wasn't the wins or losses, but how quickly she was transformed from an athlete into a political battlefield. She became a symbol for both sides to use for their own agendas, often at the expense of her own humanity. This chapter matters because it was our first real testing ground for how we discuss transgender participation in sports. It forces us to balance the dignity of the individual with the collective rules of the game. Fallon Fox reminds us that while the public sees a fighter, the private truth is a woman whose very existence became a loud, unresolved argument about the future of athletic integrity. As an observer of the shifting tides in American culture and high fashion, I remember the name Andrea Pejic long before she became a household name for her transition. In the early 2000s, she was the talk of the fashion world, famously serving as the muse for Jean-Paul Gaultier and walking in both his men's and women's shows in Paris. For our generation accustomed to very rigid definitions of what men and women should look like, her ethereal androgynous beauty was both striking and challenging. She made ambiguity visible on a global stage before the public ever knew the person behind the eyes. When she publicly shared her transition in 2014, it didn't feel like a tabloid gimmick. Instead, it felt like the missing piece of a story we had been watching in fragments for years. A major milestone for many of us was seeing her profiled in the May 2015 issue of American Vogue, making her the first openly transgender model to be featured in the magazine's history. This was a significant signal to the public that our cultural understanding of gender was evolving. While some tried to reduce her story to a simple before and after visual transformation, her chapter carries a much deeper weight. She provided us with the language to understand the difference between androgyny as a professional style and womanhood as a personal identity. Her journey reminds us that while beauty can certainly challenge the rules of the runway, true self-definition is a much more profound achievement. Andrea Pejic taught us that the image we project to the world is only half the story. The real triumph is being allowed to live your truth with dignity. As a viewer who has watched the television landscape transform over the years, I remember when Carmen Carrera first stepped onto the screen on RuPaul's Drag Race. For many in my generation, that show was a colorful introduction to a world we didn't fully understand, but it also created a significant point of confusion. At first, we viewed her through the lens of theatrical performance, not realizing that for Carmen, the journey was far more personal than a stage persona. When she publicly transitioned shortly after her season aired, it provided a profound teaching moment for the American public. I remember following her transition into the world of high fashion, where she signed with the prestigious Elite Model Management and was featured in stunning layouts for W magazine. It was a turning point that forced us to sit up and recognize the vital distinction between the art of drag, which is a costume, and a craft and gender identity, which is the core of a human being. One of the most memorable chapters of her story was the 2013 viral petition where nearly 50,000 fans called for her to become the first transgender Victoria's Secret angel. While that specific barrier wasn't broken, then the conversation it sparked was undeniable. Carmen refused to be reduced to a reality TV label. She demanded to be seen as a woman first and an advocate second. Her story matters because she used her beauty and visibility to bridge the gap between entertainment and real human education. She asked our culture to grow up and look past the sequins to see the dignity of the person underneath. For those of us who have seen television evolve from 3 major networks to the vast world of streaming, few figures feel as culturally significant as Laverne Cox. Most of us were first introduced to her through the Netflix series Orange is the New Black. As Sophia Bursay, she didn't just play a character. She provided a window into a life defined by motherhood, marriage, and a struggle for dignity. I remember being particularly moved by the storytelling that showed Sophia's pre-transition past a role played interestingly enough by her own twin brother M. Lamar. It was a grounded, humanizing portrayal on a scale American television had rarely attempted. The year 2014 felt like a true watershed moment. I recall seeing her grace the cover of Time magazine for the Transgender Tipping Point issue. It was a water cooler moment that signaled these lives were finally being moved from the fringes to the heart of the American conversation. Soon after, she made history as the first openly transgender person to earn a Primetime Emmy nomination in an acting category. While her visibility brought inevitable pushback, Cox's greatest strength has always been her poise. Whether she was handling intrusive questions on talk shows or executive producing the Peabody-winning documentary The T Word, she remained articulate and calm. For many in our generation, she wasn't just a name in a headline. She was the first person who invited us to truly listen and understand. Her chapter reminds us that when immense talent is paired with such profound courage, it doesn't just create a star, it builds a bridge of humanity. For those of us who came of age in the 1950s, James Dean wasn't just a movie star. He was the definitive rebel without a cause. His image was frozen in time the moment his Porsche 550 Spider crashed in Paso Robles, the red windbreaker, the brooding stare, and a raw masculine energy that redefined cool for an entire generation. For over half a century, that poster-perfect legend seemed set in stone. However, as the decades have passed, the narrative has become far more complex. We've seen biographers and historians peel back the layers of the studio system that governed our youth, a time when Hollywood powerhouses like Warner Brothers used strict morality clauses to curate a star's public heterosexuality. Recent reporting on the upcoming film Willie and Jimmy has brought renewed attention to William Bast's poignant memoir, Surviving James Dean. Bast, who was Dean's close friend and roommate, detailed a hidden 5-year romantic relationship that stood in stark contrast to the rugged lady killer persona the studios sold to the public. Dean closes this list as a vital old Hollywood exception. He is not here as a transgender figure, but as a profound reminder of the video's ultimate theme, the chasm between a manufactured icon and a human soul. His story matters because it proves that a legend can remain fixed for 70 years, while the human truth remains a subject of debate. It forces us to realize that fame often preserves the rebel while erasing the person. Even now, the giant of our youth remains a mystery, proving that the most enduring legends are often the ones we never truly knew. These stories are not just about before and after. They are about truth, rumor, ambiguity, and dignity. Which story made you rethink the difference between public image and private truth? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for more untold stories.